Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. I'm your host, John June, and we are back. I say we because I got my guy, Greg Penniman, with me. Greg, what's good, man?
We're back, baby. Back like we never left. We're here for it. Season. I'm really excited for the season. You know, both New York teams are relevant, like very relevant. Like it's gonna be a dope season and a dope season for fantasy, man. A lot of things. Not a new players, new faces that's gonna be coming up. New players making that leap that we like, the year two leap, the just leap in general. So yeah, I'm really excited for this year. I'm really excited for the NFL season in general.
Nah, most definitely, man. Most definitely. And like Greg said, we're excited for this fantasy football season. It's been a minute since we've been on here, on the feed, on the channel, talking fantasy football with you guys. Obviously, we would have loved to have been here, but better late than never, like we like to say sometimes, man. And today we're going to be talking about the quarterback position, getting into our positional breakdowns like we do every time around this time of year. I mean, you think about it, Greg, our very first show, the inception, was a quarterback breakdown. So we just got to bring it all full circle here and hit the folks with another quarterback breakdown. So if you're not familiar with our format here, we're going to go through our top 12s. We're going to discuss the top threes in a little bit more detail, but then we're going to get into some superlatives. We're going to talk about our quarterback busts, our quarterback breakouts, our sleepers, and lastly, we're going to discuss those quarterback my guys. And if there's any more time at the end of the show, we will play a little ADP game because, who doesn't like playing a little ADP game? I know most drafts probably have taken, have been completed at this time. But if you still have a draft going, maybe you've already completed your draft. You want to see what guys maybe might be on waivers, that we might discuss a little bit here. Then definitely want to check that out. But make sure you comment, like, subscribe on YouTube. We're obviously on Twitter and Twitch as well, live. Last year we did 4 shows a week. This year we're actually going to cut that down to 3 shows a week. You will get the remaining breakdowns, though, this week. So you will get quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. But then after that, we will transition into, being 3 times a week. And we'll discuss like the times and exactly what dates and stuff once we hash that out. But we'll be sure to obviously convey that message to you folks, our lovely loyal listeners. So just make sure, again, like I say, you stay tapped in with us all season because while the format is going to change a little bit, we're still going to be the same, where we're going to discuss the games of the week, all the games throughout the week. We're going to talk about starts of the week, helping you guys try to figure out which games to target in terms of the spreads, the totals, the matchups, if you're in the betting as well. So just, make sure you stay locked in with us because we will have you covered. But Greg, we got to jump into, some quarterback stuff. But before we do, there is one piece of news. There's a lot of things have happened. This 2023 season looks a lot different than if you looked at the end of 2022. But one thing remains: the Arizona Cardinals are a bad football team. They will continue to be a bad football team. And they made a decision today that's going to make them continue to be even worse. They look like they're in full fire sale mode. They traded Isaiah Simmons over the weekend. Or before the weekend over to the New York Giants for a 7th round pick. Very, very cheap.
A bag of change.
Essentially, that's what it was. And they went ahead and they traded their starting right tackle. So they are really in sell mode right now. And today they released veteran and anticipated starting quarterback Colt McCoy. So, and this was after trading for Cleveland Browns, quarterback who was in competition for the backup job in Joshua Dobbs. So the writing was kind of on the wall that, maybe Dobbs would be in line for some starts here. Didn't think it would happen this quickly. But all I can say is, hey, man, we are targeting the Arizona Cardinals pretty much all year. I mean, from starts of the week to defensive streams of the week, it seems like we're going after the Arizona Cardinals heavy.
Yeah, we're going after them heavy. Their defense is gonna be pretty bad. They're gonna be in just comeback mode in general. Just yeah, it's gonna be a pitiful season for them. But I thank them. They got my Giants a little bit better, so it's gonna be nice smooth sailing for that Giants defense.
Most definitely, most definitely. All right, man. Without further ado, let's jump into these quarterbacks, man. But before we jump into the these top 12s and discussing our superlatives, let's talk about the quarterbacks that finished in 2022. The top 12 quarterbacks from 2022. So Patrick Mahomes finished as the quarterback one in total fantasy points. Then it was Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Geno Smith, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Jared Goff at 10, Justin Herbert at 11, and then Tom Brady for the last, what we believe will be the last time, coming in as the quarterback 12 in total fantasy points. So, definitely some surprising names on this list. Definitely some names that we expected. Definitely some names that we expected to be on this list that aren't on this list. But let's just jump in, I guess, into right into 2023, Greg. And I got to ask you, I feel like I know what the answer is, but Greg, who is your quarterback one on the season?
I am usually, always a Patty Mahomes fan. That's my favorite quarterback in the league right now. But I'm this year, I'm taking for number one. I gotta go, my man Jalen Hurts, going in at number one quarterback on the season for fantasy. Just what he does with his legs and both improving on his arm every year. This guy has improved. People say, people are still non-believers on this kid, but every year he's improved, and that's really one thing you can bank on. So I can see that going with his offensive prowess as far as the receiving with the AJ Brown and Devontae Smith on the outside. Dallas got at tight end. Now he has DeAndre Swift, who's also more of a pass catcher. That will just help him out and more in the passing game. And when they get down in the red zone, we already know who their best running back is. It's Jalen Hurts. That's when he makes his money, getting his touchdowns, and I think he'll continue to get that production down there. Miles Sanders leaving might even help him boost that a little bit because DeAndre Swift is more of a elusive style pass catching back. So it should be good for Jalen Hurts, and he'll continue to put up huge numbers fantasy wise.
Yeah, definitely don't hate that. Definitely not going to argue that. I mean, we started the Jalen Hurts
We did, yes,
wagon.
sir.
We let it. I will take that to the grave. So, not going to hate that one bit. But he's not my quarterback one. I'm going to go to a guy that I've went through as my quarterback one last year. Did not finish as such, but it's very hard for me not to have him there. It's Josh Allen, man. For a second year in a row, he's going to be the QB1 for me. I mean, he's had 3 straight 4,000-yard passing seasons with at least 35 passing touchdowns in each of those seasons. And he's had at least 400 rushing yards in each of those seasons. But he's had 760 in each of the last 2 seasons to go along with at least 6 rushing touchdowns in those years. So he's his team starting quarterback, and he's most likely going to end up as his team's leading rusher and lead the team in rushing touchdowns. The reason why I will have him here on this list ahead of a Jalen Hurts, Hurts is fantastic. Obviously, the rushing touchdowns were great, but we haven't seen Hurts throw for more than 22 touchdown passes in a season. Obviously, he was injured last year. He probably would have got to that 25, 26, 27 number. But Josh Allen is a guy that, again, 35 touchdowns each of the last 3 seasons. He's also going to rush for 6, 7, or 8 touchdowns. And there could be a possibility he gets into the 10, double-digit rushing touchdown numbers as well to go along with that huge, the huge passing touchdown number. So just for that reason alone, he's going to be my quarterback one. I mean, finishes of QB2, QB3, and QB2 in the last 3 seasons in total points.
He's due. He's
Yeah,
due.
yeah. You basically got to give us a QB1 finish. But I will say though that when it comes to my QB2 on the year, it is in fact Jalen Hurts. And like I said, we did start, the Jalen Hurts. We did feel like we started the Jalen Hurts bandwagon. We've been banging the drum for him since, he was taking over for a struggling Carson Wentz. And now look at him. He's a franchise quarterback for the Philadelphia
Look at
Eagles.
that.
Took a step forward last year as a passer, like you mentioned, with the addition of A.J. Brown, obviously an improved Devontae Smith, and then Hurts his own development as a passer himself, right? We can't just give all the credit to all these pieces around him without giving credit to a guy who we know is a hard worker from everything we hear about him from his teammates and the coaching staff there. So I think he's going to continue. I do think that he regresses a little bit on the 13 rushing touchdowns potentially, but again, the way things are happening in that backfield, like you mentioned, things are changing. He's got DeAndre Swift. They've added Rashad Penny. There's a lot of shifts in that backfield where the only constant really is Jalen Hurts. So I think a top 3 season is a given here for Hurts.
Yeah, definitely love this here. Got his money. I don't think that would affect him at all, only in a positive way for him to continue to be a really good quarterback in this league.
Most definitely. What about you, Greg? Who's your QB2? I feel like again I know who it is, but
Yeah, got it here. The only reason Jalen Hurts edged out Mahomes just by slightly, just with that rushing ability. But it is Patty. I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes number one, as he got the MVP last year, got the 40 touchdowns last year, 41 touchdowns. Just an amazing year by him, as he does every year. Though just a pure passer. It doesn't matter who's playing that receiver spot. Sky Moore hopefully will take an increase, and then hopefully if Kadarius Toney can stay healthy, he should be a huge piece for him, especially what they were doing last year in the playoffs, getting him in space and movement. It really confused that Eagles defense, especially in the Super Bowl. And Travis Kelsey, this one constant receiver, will always be there. Led the league in passing yards as well last year, and when he needs to, his legs, his ability to rush and get those yards down the field is astounding. So Patrick Mahomes, yeah, he's going to be a guy that it doesn't really matter who's going to be his receivers. Travis Kelsey's there, Andy Reid's there, Jared McKinnon also be a help to him as well as far as pass catching abilities. He'll make it happen.
yeah, no, definitely agree with you there. I mean, I haven't named Mahomes yet, but I have a strong inkling that I'll probably name him shortly. But Greg,
You had him out the top 3 last year. I remember that. I remember that.
I did. I was looking back at my notes and I didn't have Mahomes in my top 3. It kind of felt a little weird. I guess I was just like everybody else and assumed that the loss of um, of Tyreek Hill would have a greater impact than maybe some of us really anticipated. But Greg, who's your QB3 on the year? I feel like there's only one guy left for you to put on this list.
Yeah, it's got to be Josh Allen here. It was tough. It was really tough. I mean, I really do like Lamar Jackson coming into this year with the deal and with the new receivers. But Josh Allen, just that offense, it's a machine with Stephon Diggs and the likes of his receivers, and his rushing ability has always been a constant. And he uses it not as a need, and he uses it as a want as well. And it's not just a third down. I have to do this. It's part of the game plan. Josh Allen's going to get his as far as in the red zone as well. We talked about Jalen Hurts getting those rushing touchdowns. Josh Allen is also going to be that person to do it. We've always been begging for the Bills to get that number one horse running back, but Josh Allen is that guy. So he's going to continue to put up a lot of fantasy production.
Yeah, definitely agree. I mean, obviously he's my quarterback one, so I'm not gonna argue with you there one bit. I mean, again, I said this story last year, but we were in Dallas when Josh Allen was made the 7th overall pick to the Buffalo Bills, and I literally laughed out loud. I did not think that he would ever be remotely close to a starting NFL quarterback, and he is again one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL today. So egg on my face there, but I will gladly draft a man on my fantasy teams and reap the benefits. So my QB3, who I definitely did not laugh when he got drafted, thought that he would end up being good. I can never imagine that I said I think he'd be this good. But Patrick Mahomes, my quarterback 3 on the year, and I I feel like there's this like running theme on the show where like I constantly am disrespecting Patrick Mahomes, but it's like I'm not really disrespecting him, right? It's like yes, he's the greatest player I've ever seen play quarterback, and the Tom Brady fans are going to hate me for that, which I
I'm
get
with
it.
you.
Like I've never seen a more talented person play quarterback in my entire life. But yet I never ever put him as the quarterback one. I think it was what like 2 years ago was the last time I had him as the quarterback one. I was like, yo, he might break Peyton Manning's record. Um,
It
but
had to have been the 50-yard year, 50 touchdown year,
no, it was
probably.
after the 50 touchdown year.
Oh, okay. I got
Yeah,
you.
it might have been after that. But yeah, no, I mean he's great. Again, I can't believe I didn't have him in my top 3 last year. No Tyreek Hill, no problem. He'll just finish as the quarterback one, which is exactly what he did. Uh, you know, what is there to say? Travis Kelsey, Andy Reid, Julian. I mean, just let's go to work, man. I mean, he's gonna go high in drafts. He went 10th overall in our League of Extraordinary People
He
draft,
did. He
14
did.
team league. Like again, I mean, granted, he went to a Chiefs fan, so there's a grain of salt to be had there. Um, but I mean, Greg, do you foresee yourself outside of maybe like a super flex league or in a standard? I guess I'll ask it this way: in a standard like one quarterback league, do you see yourself rostering any of these 3 quarterbacks?
uh, I would see myself reaching for Jalen Hurts and Mahomes. I think. Uh, yeah, more Jalen Hurts, of course. I don't. I'm usually not the person. I usually will go still get a high quarterback, top 12, top 6, maybe. So what we did in our draft, I got Herbert. That's kind of like where I like to start picking like a Joe Burrow, Herbert. Those quarterbacks that match a Hurts and Mahomes on any given night. And you can still kind of get them in the mid round. So I do like that strategy more a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we used to say, hey, wait on quarterback as late as possible. I mean, I know I used to say that all the time. Um, and then I think a couple of years ago we've realized that there's a lot of these rushing quarterbacks, these quarterbacks with this mobile, this mobility and this upside here that it's like, hey, maybe I don't want to wait until the end to take a quarterback, but I'd rather take one of these guys in the middle, kind of like what you're referring to with the Herbert or with a Herbert or a Burrow. Last year Hurts was one of those guys. I mean, me, I'm always looking for a discount. So
Right.
Hurts was priced a little out of my range last year. So it was the year before I was all over Hurts because he was so cheap. And trust me, this year we'll talk about another guy who probably fits that mold a little bit. But yeah, you're probably gonna find me, digging around. And a guy that I won't talk about today from a superlative standpoint, but he's a guy that I'm sure, you know, I know that we're both really high on. I couldn't somehow justify putting him as a breakout this year, and I couldn't put him as a my guy because you guys will see why later. But Justin Fields is a guy that, like, to me, he's the guy that I want
Right.
because he has the upside of the Jalen Hurts, the Lamar Jacksons, even to a smaller degree of Josh Allen, but he doesn't cost as much,
Right.
right? He's the quarterback 6 in terms of ADP. He's going in the 4th round, which is about where Jalen Hurts was going last year. So I'd totally be comfortable pulling the trigger on a Justin Fields as my QB1, taking him as the quarterback 4 or even 5 in fantasy drafts and just rolling with him from there.
Yeah, because I mean, there was a stretch in the fantasy season where he was like for those couple weeks number one quarterback, putting up number one QB1 numbers every week. So he's very capable. And then if you're able to do that, you can match those big time quarterbacks, but you have like a CMC, a Saquon, all those the other players to add to that.
Most definitely, most definitely. So, Greg, I mean, we've been talking about these top 3 quarterbacks, so I guess let's get into how we rank them from the top 12 perspective. I'll just go ahead and I'll start here. So rounding out again, just saying my top three again: Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes. At 4, I have Aaron Rodgers here. 5, Justin Fields. 6, Kirk Cousins. 7, Lamar Jackson. 8, Tua Tagovailoa. 9, Joe Burrow. 10, Anthony Richardson. 11, Russell Wilson. And 12, Justin Herbert.
Whew. For me, I know that hurt one. That hurt one really hurt.
It's a
At the
spicy
pause.
12. It's a spicy 12.
It is. It is. So yep. After my top three, of course, I have Lamar Jackson at 4, Joe Burrow at 5, Herbert at 6, Justin Fields at 7, Tua Tagovailoa at 8, Trevor Lawrence at 9, Geno Smith at 10, Daniel Jones, baby, you know you got to think into that top 12 at 11, and then Kirk Cousins at 12.
Nice, man. So I guess let's just kind of hash out these superlatives, Greg. So I feel like you and I are leaning in the same direction in a quarterback bust. Actually, I not feel like I know for a fact we have the same guy. It is Dak Prescott. And again, I'm going to preface this by saying when we say bust, we're not saying that this guy sucks or he's terrible at football. We're just saying that the price that this player is currently going for, we find it. We see some possibility. We see a possibility or some reasons why they might not return value at that price. So right now, according to 4for4.com's multi-site ADP, Dak Prescott is the quarterback 11, the third pick in the 8th round of 12-team leagues. ADP could be different in different sites, different places. 4for4 does a multi-site aggregation of the ADP, so you get a nice idea of what he's like across multiple sites. But Greg, what is your take on Dak Prescott, and why is he a bust in your eyes?
Yeah, I think it's always went into this argument. I think about all the people around him, and who you can get as far as his spot. So you could wait on not taking the Dak Prescott and get a Tua, a Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Geno Smith. All those guys that just named are getting drafted below Dak Prescott, and I mean some of those guys finished ahead of Dak Prescott actually last year in fantasy. So I think with Geno Smith, I'd rather take for sure. Kirk Cousins for sure as well. And Tua, when he was healthy, he was putting up monster numbers in fantasy. So I like those people more. And Dak Prescott, it's still some question marks. Him coming off, statistically not a very good season as far as interceptions wise. That could be the case again this year. He's also losing Dalton Schultz. I mean, I know, that's one of the big major things for Dak Prescott was throwing to the tight end position for sure. Then Ferguson is there. We'll see how he does in stepping in for Dalton Schultz. But some changes as well from chemistry. Brandon Cook's coming in, so he'll come on a little bit late. But yeah, I think Dak Prescott might is not priced as a QB1 in my opinion. And also, Jerry Jones made him a little, either he motivated him or he maybe ticked him off a little bit by getting traded for Trey Lance. So we'll see how that affects him.
Yeah, no, I love what you said. Right, it's about who's going around him. Would I rather have any of these other guys that are going in this similar price point to a Dak Prescott, and how what's the upside, what's the risk reward versus rostering a player like Dak, and to that point, I agree. I think the quarterback 11 is a little bit rich. He was the quarterback 19 in total fantasy points last year, and you could say, well, John, he missed 5 games, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, he missed 5 games, so let's look at it a point per game basis. He was the quarterback 16 when you look at it from a fantasy points per game. So really, he was not, 16 points per game. He was not really providing the value there for you that would justify the fantasy price point of quarterback 11. But that's not even what scares me about the situation. What really scares me in Dallas is what head coach Mike McCarthy said, and his actions are doubling down on that, right? he fired offensive coordinator Kellen Moore. Okay, what was Kellen Moore known for? Kellen Moore was known for running a lot of three wide receiver sets, running a lot of no huddle, getting fast pace. What was that good for? Well, that was good for more pass attempts for Dak Prescott, more plays, more potential opportunities for touchdowns and points. And what does Mike McCarthy say? Well, he said Kellen Moore wants to score points. I want to run the damn ball.
Sound like Atlanta out there.
Yeah, right? A little bit. And so
Yeah.
Mike McCarthy fires Kellen Moore, takes over. He's taking over the play calling duties so that he can run the damn football. And that's what he wants to do, right? And you don't have Amari Cooper. You know, I mean, they didn't have Amari Cooper last year, and it escapes me who even the number 2 receiver was last year, but it was the CD Lamb show, essentially.
Yeah, there wasn't really one. Dalton Schultz was the number 2 pass catcher.
Number 2 pass catcher, right?
Yeah.
But you know, they've got Brandon Cooks now, which I actually think Brandon Cooks is a value. I mean, this isn't the wide receiver show, but I actually don't hate that there. But I just don't think that they're going to be throwing the football as much with Mike McCarthy calling the plays. He's already made it known they want to run the football. You know, they've got Tony Pollard there. They've got Deuce Vaughn. I think that they're really going to run a slower pace game. They're going to less pass attempts, try to play ball control offense to go along with the strong defense that they do have, right? Like from a coaching perspective, like, yeah, I hear what, you know, Mike McCarthy's saying. He wants to protect his defense. But at the end of the day, from a fantasy standpoint, I think this only hurts Dak Prescott.
Yeah, and also to your point, it's not like Dak is one of those first people that's going to be running in this offense. He's not a running quarterback, especially since that injury. He's scaled back a little bit, so he's not going to be adding to that and give you a floor in that way. So it's going to be tough.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely agree there. All right, so I'm going to jump into my quarterback sleeper, and this is a guy that I talked about last year at a different spot. He was a my guy for me last year. But this year, he's going to be a post-hype sleeper for me, and that is Russell Wilson, who it took by week 14 last year to have as many touchdown passes as he has bathrooms in his house. So what the year it was for Russell Wilson, but again, can't believe he was a my guy for me last year after watching the year that he had. It was kind of wild to witness it, especially with the year that Gino was having on the other side.
Yeah.
But
yeah, man,
that's besides the point. Sean Payton is here to take over this Denver team, and I like Russ to bounce back, return a borderline QB1 season here for fantasy managers at a very affordable price of the quarterback 18, according to 4for4.com's multi-site ADP. That's the third pick in the 11th round. Again, if you're willing to wait on quarterback in a one quarterback league, or if you are looking for a quarterback 2 with some QB ups with some QB1 upside in a super flex league, I think I'm willing to take the shot here on Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's only got to go up for him based off what happened last year, and this offense, Sean Payton coming in. Hopefully, they get more chemistry. It doesn't help again that Tim Patrick, was again injured preseason. But that just adds more opportunity for Marvin Mims to step up, gives more opportunity for Cortland Sutton, and Greg Dulcich. So hopefully these guys can step up Russell Wilson, and hopefully they can get more high scoring games. Then it'll definitely help Russell Wilson for sure.
I mean, that was the hope last year, was the high scoring games in the AFC West.
Yeah.
But I have faith this time. Greg, what about you? Who's your quarterback sleeper this year?
This year I'm going Kenny Pickett from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's going, I think, right after that Russell Wilson range. He's going QB 19, according to Fantasy Pros for ADP. Kenny Pickett last year, he came on later in the year and just had some games where he put up over 250 yards passing. And I feel like with more reps, more rhythm, more time, he's going to continue to get better. Has definitely some good moments in the preseason. Throwing to his guy George Pickens, who's going to be definitely a guy I'm looking at this year as far as a breakout candidate. And he's already still got his Deontay Johnson, who's also a really good sleeper wide receiver for this year. Allen Robinson they added. Pat Farmer, who's been a steady tight end for the last couple of years. And Najee Harris has some pass catching ability. So I think both the Steelers and the Packers, I really do like their offense. I think they're going to be two sleeper offenses to kind of rise up this year and make some noise in the AFC.
Yeah, man, I've been coming around on Kenny Pickett lately. Like last year when he was coming out, as a rookie and for the draft, and he was I think the 20th pick in the draft last year. I just remember from a purely like a dynasty perspective, like a prospect perspective, I was like, I don't want Kenny Pickett, want nothing to do with Kenny Pickett. Like I'm good off Kenny Pickett. Um, but from a redraft perspective, and you hear about the things that are coming out of Pittsburgh, and some of the stories about the camp that he's having and the preseason that he's had. And like you said, he's put some good stuff on tape. I was watching a clip. Warren Sharp, I think, put a breakdown of not necessarily a breakdown, but just like a highlight reel of all of Kenny Pickett's preseason pass attempts. And I just remember coming away from that feeling like, he doesn't look half too bad at all. And this is a guy that will use his legs. Ran for I think it was like 5 or 6 touchdowns last year. Um, maybe that number might not be 100% accurate, but I'll get the number. But either way, he was very good last year. With being willing to use his legs and things of that nature. So, yeah, actually, yeah, three touchdowns, not
Yep.
three rushing touchdowns. Um, but yeah, so again, he's a guy that I definitely agree. I think he can definitely bring some value as a guy who's going outside the top 20 right now.
Yeah, 237 yards rushing too. I mean, in only like 12 games, so that means he's definitely getting to that 400 rushing yard number. I think is a good marker for quarterbacks. So, yeah, I do like him and the Steelers offense this year.
Most definitely, most definitely. Greg, what about your quarterback breakout this year?
I'm gonna stay with the Kenny Pickett, man. I do like him a lot. I know Anthony Richardson is he's definitely the nice shiny car for sure. I'm willing to get in that car as well. But Kenny Pickett, I think he's going to be a guy that we think about next year and down the line. Who's gonna this year? He's gonna give us QB1 performances. From time to time, he's going to be definitely a guy that is going to be extremely weak. Guy that I'm bringing up throughout the year and then an ADP for next year. He's going to move up for sure in those times and be in that kind of that QB1 conversation, that borderline QB1 conversation.
Yeah, I like this one. I mean, you look at the division they play in too. You're right. You're going to have games against Baltimore. You're going to have those games against Cincinnati. You're going to have games against Cleveland, who many of us expected to take a step forward as an offense and as a team. So, might end up in some high scoring games there where he's going to have to shoot out a little bit and kind of see what he's about. So I like this one a lot. My quarterback breakout is the guy you mentioned, the aforementioned Anthony Richardson. And I think, Greg, I think I had said to you, I think you pretty much probably knew since the day that he ran at the combine that he was going to be my quarterback breakout because I would not stop talking about Anthony Richardson that day.
Yeah. He was putting up. No, he was the talk for sure of the combine. It was insane the numbers he was putting up.
But yeah,
Size, crazy.
absolutely give me the dynamic first round draft pick with the legs. Anthony Richardson, again, the 4th overall pick in the NFL draft. Dude is a freak at the quarterback position. Came in 6'4", 244 pounds, ran 4.43 at the NFL Combine. Like, that is edge rusher type numbers right there. And he gets paired with head coach Shane Steichen, who spent the last 2 seasons with Jalen Hurts over in Philadelphia. So you can only imagine the offense that's being installed in Indy. And then on top of all of this, there's the Jonathan Taylor drama, right? So you're probably asking, John, what does Jonathan Taylor have to do with Anthony Richardson? Well, maybe if you think about it, this leads to more potential rushes, right? More potential rushing touchdowns here for Anthony Richardson. So I think there's a strong possibility here. I've got him inside my top. I got him at quarterback 10, but I think he definitely returns value on that. And from an ADP perspective, according to 44.com's multi-site ADP, he's going as a quarterback 15. I got him pretty late in our League of Extraordinary People draft as well. He's a guy that I'm not going to take him and start him right away, but he's definitely a guy that I will take. I'll probably pair him with another quarterback if I can pair him with a Kirk Cousins, if I can pair him with an Aaron Rodgers, somebody who I'm comfortable starting to start the season, and then letting Anthony Richardson kind of bake on my bench for a little bit. And then once it's clear that, hey, this is his offense, he's comfortable in it, they've got a package of plays for him, and we've got some good matchups, I'm definitely gonna roll out the rookie there, Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, man. From seeing those preseason games, just he's willing to take chances. You like that. He has some nice throws, and he's going to be a guy you gotta hope that he's only going to get better. The man, I don't think he had very, very, very limited college experience. They're going to throw him out in the fire, and yeah, bye week, well, close to the bye week, even after, I think he's going to be putting up numbers, and just in general, I think he's going to have that safe floor because of his rushing ability. So. Yeah, again, they got receivers. He has help, so it's not like he's a rookie quarterback with no one around him. Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman Jr. They're definitely going to help him out a lot.
Yeah, most definitely, Greg. Why don't we get into my guys? Actually, I guess this is my turn right here to discuss my guy. So again, another guy that I talked about last year in a different spot, Aaron Rodgers. If you haven't noticed, Aaron Rodgers, if you've been living under a rock, plays football now for the New York Jets. He announced his intention to do so back in March. I remember that day. I was watching the Pat McAfee show, as I think everyone else was, when he made that decision and he made that announcement. But last year, he was my bust here in this spot. And that turned out to be pretty correct because he did finish as the quarterback 13 on the season. But he also did suffer a broken thumb last year, which I'm not going to take credit for knowing that would happen. But you definitely have to acknowledge that contributed to his poor play. He also dealt with issues at new personnel, which was one of the things that I talked about as being one of the reasons for why he would struggle last year. But if you look at his last 3 seasons, right, among NFL quarterbacks to start at least 10 games over the last 3 seasons, he ranks second in touchdown passes, first in passing touchdown rate, 5th in completion percentage, and 10th in passing yards per attempt. Now, despite finishing as the quarterback 13 last year, he secured a quarterback 5 and quarterback 3 finish in 2021 and 2020 respectively. And he's reuniting here with former offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett, who again he played for in 2021 and 2020, and with whom he won those back-to-back MVPs. He's also got a talented skill group around him with Garrett Wilson, obviously Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook, Alan Lazard, Mecole Hardman, Tyler Conklin at tight end to go along with CJ Uzomah. So he's got some talent around him there as well. He's going off the board right now as the quarterback 13, the first pick in the 9th round. Now, again, I know everyone wants to talk about he's 39 years old, coming off the worst season he's had. But if there's one thing you know about Aaron Rodgers, there's 2 people on this planet that I would not want to face in a football game when they are pissed off. That's Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, after the Green Bay Packers drafted Jordan Love, went out and said, all right, hold my beer. Here's an MVP season for you.
And then another one, back to back.
And another one, back to back. Right?
Crazy.
So, I don't know if it's because I'm a Jet fan. I'm leaning into Aaron Rodgers' revenge tour.
But my guy is a personal, award too. But yeah, it's Aaron Rodgers. This is the best Hard Knocks I've ever seen either too. Like, it's been a lot of Hard Knocks I've seen. It's just something about it, yo. The magic is majestic. It's got the energy to it. The preseason games, it was one drive, but you just see it. It just looked like Devontae Adams was on the outside. The first play, he saw the space, just got it to this guy, give him 10 yards, automatic first down. Like, it's gonna be a good connection with him, his receiver, especially Garrett Wilson. Yeah, they should be really good. And he's got probably the best defense he's ever had behind him.
Oh, most definitely, most definitely. And the thing is, again, he's my quarterback 4 on the year, so that's really high. And you guys know me, like I'm always going to towards rushing quarterbacks over these guys that don't really run the football. So Aaron Rodgers, 39 years old, not really going to be the guy I'm going after at the top of drafts, right? Like I have him ranked ahead of Fields or Lamar, but I'd rather have Fields and Lamar on my team, right? But Fields and Lamar are going much earlier than Aaron Rodgers is. So if I have to wait, I will definitely wait on quarterback, take Rodgers like I did in the League of Extraordinary People. I waited on quarterback. I took him, I think I took him about quarterback 8 or quarterback 9. So probably a little bit earlier than his price, but by my board, I got him at a great price. And then I paired him with an Anthony Richardson. So now I have, the Aaron Rodgers I'm gonna play him out the gate, and I've got an Anthony Richardson baking on the bench with that rushing upside, so I can still get the Konami code like we like to do here at the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. So if that's a strategy that works for you, most definitely. But if Aaron Rodgers is going to have an MVP type caliber season, revenge tour, I want a piece of that for sure.
Yeah, and if we're at a discount, it's definitely worth it.
All right, Greg, who is your my guy for the season, man?
I gotta go with my man, the Herb man, Justin Herbert. Just probably had a slightly down year last year, especially with the expectations coming into last year. But I think he's back, and I think he's gonna have a monster year this year with his receivers. The usual, the back, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, and then Mike Williams 2.0, Quentin Johnson, pretty much. So it's gonna be good for him when he comes up in this offense. Eckler as well. Been one of the top running backs in fantasy for the last couple of years with his touchdown ability, and that will help him on the receiving side as well. I think Herbert increases his touchdown performance this year and increases his yards and just gets in, shows why people think he was ready to take kind of that mantle for possibly from Mahomes, give Mahomes more comp in that division. I think he's gonna do that and give him more confidence in this division and make some games happen and put some high scoring numbers up for this offense and for this team. The Herb, man, we got to go back. It's my guy.
Yeah, man. I honestly, when my rankings, I looked at my rankings and my projections, and I sorted them, and I saw Herbert was at 12. I was like, that feels really low, especially considering I had him as high as 3 last year. But I do see a path to where he finishes in the top 5, right? Like it's definitely within the range of outcomes. Keenan Allen stays 100% healthy. Mike Williams stays healthy. Quentin Johnston comes in and he immediately contributes right away. If they could ever figure out who the hell is going to play tight end, right? Like, if these things come together, right? Austin Eckler, one of the best dual threat running backs in football today. So, if these things could come together, there's definitely a path to him having a top 5 finish. And I didn't even mention the best part he has going for him, which is the new offensive coordinator, which is a guy that we talked about previously during this episode, which is Kellen Moore, right? Kellen Moore left Dallas. He's got the job with the Chargers now. So they're going to be fast paced. They're going to be high in terms of passing attempts. So Herbert, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, one of the most efficient passers in the league. If you increase his total pass attempts, that means yards go up, touchdowns go up. So I definitely like his prospects to finish as a top 5 quarterback for sure.
Yes, sir. It's the Herb, man.
All right, we're going to play some ADP game, but before we do that, we got a question here from Itty Bitty South City 650. Quarterback is Geno. Wide receiver 1 is Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith. Running back 1, Najee Harris. Running back 2, Cam Akers. Tight end, Greg Dulcich. And in their flex, they've got DJ Moore. On their bench, they've got Dotson, Renfro, Elijah Moore, Jeff Wilson Jr. I'm assuming that's Jake Ferguson, Brees Hall, Kareem Hunt, a Young Wei Koo as their kicker, and the Chargers defense. And then looks like they have an IDP. They have Foye Aluakon. So thoughts on my 14 team half PPR league, and I'm assuming they're asking from the
Pick from the
fourth.
fourth spot.
I like it. Half PPR probably would have, liked to go running back in that spot there from the four hole, but Jamar Chase could have a number one type player in fantasy type season, 100% within the range of outcomes. So if that happens, like your team could definitely go through the roof. I don't love your running backs particularly, especially being half PPR. I mean, Brees Hall is a nice stash there to have on your bench. But Najee Harris is someone I'm not particularly in love with, and Cam Akers. I mean, that could go either way, but you know, I'm not as low on him as I think other people might be this year. Greg, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the running back situation could be slightly. Though Akers, I think at the RB2 position, I'm not as high on him, but you have the Brees Hall thing will help out in the long run. I think so. If Akers can kind of manage his way throughout the early in the season, Brees Hall will be ready as he gets back in rhythm and stuff like that off that knee injury. But then after that, there is no no depth after that for sure, because running backs are going to be falling like flies by week 4. So we'll see how that goes. But that's what the waiver wire pod is for. That's what the waiver wire how to manage that is for. But other than that, the receiver depth is there. I think Elijah Moore has a chance to kind of make some noise this year. And Geno Smith is a good quarterback. He's in my top 12. Got him probably at a discount, so that's good.
And then he asked anyone I should look to replace Renfro with. I would say Marvin Mims is a
Marvin
guy
Mims, yeah.
that if he's available, I'd take a shot on. Jaden Reed is another guy who's with Green Bay. He's a rookie, a guy I'd probably take a shot on. I don't know what Renfro's role is really going to be in this offense, so I'd rather look to some of those guys that maybe have some opportunities there.
Yeah, I don't know if Romeo Dobbs is out there or maybe, but yeah, he's also named, I think.
He's a guy I can never get, and I want him on my team so bad. Like,
yeah.
And this isn't the receiver show. We'll talk about receivers, but I'll make sure we fit in some Romeo Dobbs like ADP game at least, because he's a guy that I feel like have to talk about at some point. Or your boy Jalen Hyatt. He could have a role at some point. So he's a guy that maybe I would particularly rather have than a Hunter Renfro.
I agree with that.
All right, let's get back into the ADP game. We just got 3 here, and then we're gonna wrap it up. First night, so stamina is not what it used to be. So, but we'll be back. Don't worry. Deshaun Watson versus Kirk Cousins. Watson is going off the board as the QB9 according to 444.com's multi-site ADP. That's the 3rd pick in the 7th round. While you have Kirk Cousins, who's going as the quarterback 12 and is the 11th pick in the 8th round. Greg, where are you?
I'm all in on Kirk Cousins. I mean, he's in my top 12. I think if someone, told me you can't choose Dak Prescott, who's your quarterback bust, I feel like I would have to lean to Deshaun Watson, only because, what I saw last year, I mean, it was his first time back in a year, but it didn't look very impressive as far as him putting up monster numbers like he wasn't in Houston on that Cleveland Browns team. And, the low-scoring games, the pace didn't just seem like it was looking good. And they still have Nick Chubb. I think they still want to enforce that run game first. So, yeah, I'm all in on Kirk Cousins. He's got Jay Jeff there. Addison's going to be a factor. So, yeah, I'm all in for Kirk Cousins.
I like when we're on the same page about busts and things, because like that makes me feel like, all right, this might actually happen, because we don't really talk about these things until we're here, right? So,
right.
I'm with you. Give me Kirk. First off, I feel like Kirk is woefully disrespected every single year.
Every year.
I think it's
even the documentary couldn't help him, man.
like this feels like the first time I have not mentioned him as a sleeper. I think last year I refused to come on the show and mention Kirk Cousins as a sleeper, because I was like, this is not right. This shouldn't even be a thing. But yeah, here we are. I mean, at least he's a QB1 now, so I like that. That's good, reasonable. Um, but I got Kirk Cousins in my top 6. Right? So for me, like he shouldn't even be at 12. He should be
Right.
much higher. And I agree, right? Like the weapons around him, you got Justin Jefferson, you got Addison, you got a TJ
TJ
Hawkins.
Hawk,
Like
crazy.
a QB1 finish is almost guaranteed. Where
Yep.
with Deshaun Watson, it's like if you said, okay, what's the Browns' best shot at winning football games? It's not having Deshaun drop back 30, 40 times. It's handing the ball to Nick Chubb 25 times a game.
Yep.
So I think the Browns know that. Um, we didn't see again, it was his first time, Deshaun Watson's first time playing in over 2 years, essentially. But we didn't see much that was inspiring.
Yeah.
So for me, and then obviously like there's the Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore. Those weapons are okay, but there's not like, there's not he's not throwing a DeAndre Hopkins, right? Or
Yeah.
like okay, and the Browns aren't supposed to be bad where there's going to be all this negative game script like his last year in Houston where he was just throwing the ball, all over the yard. So I just really feel like, again, like if I had to pick a guy that's not Dak to be a bust, it was going to be Watson for me as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um. So next up, I mean, Greg, we already know where you're going with this one. Brock Purdy. He is currently the quarterback 20, according to 444.com, going off as the ninth pick in the 12th round. And then Kenny Pickett is the quarterback 21, going off as the first pick in the 13th round. This one is tough, right? This one is not tough in the sense of like, I already know where I'm going, but naturally I kind of want to lean San Fran because I'm like, all right, Kyle Shanahan's there. You've got Debo Samuel. You've got Brandon Ayuk. You've got a George Kittle. You've got Christian McCaffrey at the backfield. Like Brock Purdy has a nice infrastructure set up in place around him. But then you have the
Yeah.
questions like, okay, the elbow, was he really Brock? Like, was that the real Brock Purdy? Like, is was some of that, defenses not being able to like game plan against him because they hadn't really seen him, or there were some of those things Brock Purdy was doing. I was like, that is luck. Like some of it, not all of it, right? Some of the things, right? Some of them. So when I look at Purdy, I just try to I kind of wonder like how much of that is really sustainable and repeatable. Um, and then Kenny Pickett is kind of got like, he's got the weapons around him and the Deontay Johnson and the George Pickens and a Pat Fryermuth, but you don't really love like the play calling situation. Both guys are willing to use their legs. I say all this to say I'm probably gonna go Kenny Pickett here. I think
Yeah.
I think you sold me, Greg. I think coming into this, I probably would have said Purdy, but I think I'm leaning. I think I'm leaning Kenny Pickett here because of his preseason and what he's done and the momentum that he has going into the regular season.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think just going for some more upside here. I think he has that of the two players in the later rounds. I think you want to meet, aim for a more higher upside quarterback that can give you a high scoring game. Yeah, and Brock Purdy, I feel like he's going to be a solid quarterback. I mean, at the very least, he should do what Jimmy G did. I mean, he basically got all the same weapons Jimmy G had. The offense should be similar, so that puts you in streaming conversation every week for sure. So I think Brock Purdy is a solid option if you're down there trying to pick a quarterback in there, but. I'm gonna lean towards trying to aim for the more upside type player. So I'll go Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, I dig that one for sure, man. All right, last but not least, let's jump into the last one of the night here before we wrap this up. Mac Jones versus Ryan Tannehill. Mac Jones is the quarterback 28, going off the board as the second pick in the 18th round, and Tannehill's going a spot later as a third pick in the 18th round as the quarterback 29. So, um, Greg, I guess I ask you, where are you leaning?
I'm leaning to Ryan Tannehill. I think the the D Hop news does really help Ryan Tannehill a little bit. Also, the fact that Mac Jones being in the AFC East, those cold games, it's going to be like 2 or 3 games where the scores are going to be pitiful, and it's going to affect him as a quarterback. We don't even know if Bill Belichick still believes in him as the quarterback, the guy for this team. So I'm gonna go with a more sturdy situation. Ryan Tannehill, he's being drafted a spot later, so I think that even makes it better for a good value there. Traylon Burke should take a step up, a leap, hopefully, and D Hop should help him. So I'm Ryan Tannehill comfortably.
Yeah, I'm with you here. Damn, I think that we are in 100% agreement on all these. But yeah, Ryan Tannehill for sure. I mean, honestly, I put this one on here because it was kind of just like I can't believe that Ryan Tannehill is this far down on the list. Like I
Yeah,
know we hadn't seen him play in quite some time, but like ahead of a Mac Jones, like Sam Howell, like people are drafting Kyler Murray ahead of Ryan Tannehill. Like that doesn't really make any sense to me.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, he's basically almost undrafted. That's crazy.
yeah, it's kind of absurd. I mean, this is a guy that he's gonna have a DeAndre Hopkins. He has a second year Traylon Burks. He's got a Chigo Ogazim. I gotta practice saying his last name, the tight end. And then I mean, I don't know. He still has Derrick Henry in the backfield, so he's not like he's
Yeah,
like teams are like, oh, well, we can't let Ryan Tannehill beat us. Like, no. So, yeah, give me Tannehill as the quarterback 29. He's a guy that will probably stream this year. But in 2 quarterback leagues, you can have him essentially as a quarterback 3 for free.
yep,
So, yeah, sign me up.
yes,
And
sir, absolutely.
you said about Mac Jones. Like, I mean, we don't know if Belichick believes in him. I mean,
Yeah,
Bill O'Brien is here, so at least we got him away from Matt Patricia, which is great. But, I mean, Devontae Parker, Juju Smith-Schuster, Kendrick Bourne.
that A
No,
dot gonna be real low. That, yeah, gonna be
seriously,
real low.
what A dot? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, man. So we'll see what happens, but that pretty much wraps up the show for the evening here. So I really appreciate y'all jumping in with us and catching this quarterback breakdown. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff here. But I don't know. We will catch y'all obviously tomorrow as we break down the we'll do the same breakdown. So anything else you want to say to the people, Greg, before we get out of here?
Nah, man, really excited for this season. Quarterbacks was fun. Yeah, I mean, don't forget to watch that Hard Knocks tomorrow. Get to see some quarterbacks out there. Aaron Rodgers, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right, people. We'll catch y'all later. Have a good one. And yeah, we'll catch y'all tomorrow with those running backs.
Yes, sir. We out.